Val?
Yes.
All right, at this time, we will call this meeting to order. I will remind you all to please silence your cell phones or any electronic devices that you may have at this time. Val, go ahead and please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Villa?
Here, and now I'll ask you all to stand for the invocation and continue standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, dear God, to ask blessings upon this meeting. Dear God, we ask you to help each individual elected official in their thought process to serve you and to serve this city, dear God. We ask you to bless all of our law enforcement and first responders across this nation during this time, dear God. We ask you to rebuild cities, rebuild America, dear God. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we're moving to our public hearings first with our budget and millage rate. Scott, do you want to read that into the record?
Resolution 2020-R-46. I need to read this one in its entirety.
Yes, sir.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the final levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Holly Hill for the fiscal year 2020-2021 and providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Whereas the City of Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, on September 9, 2020, adopted a fiscal year 2020-2021 tentative millage rate following a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas the City of Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, on September 22, 2020, adopted the fiscal year 2020-2021 final millage rate following a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas the City of Holly Hill of Volusia County, Florida, held a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas the gross taxable value for operating purposes not exempt from taxation, Volusia County, has been certified by the county property appraiser to the City of Holly Hill as $177,324. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida. Section 1, the fiscal year 2020-2021 final operating millage is 6.25 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 5.9014 mils by 5.91%. The final public hearing was held on September 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. The rest is just standard boilerplate language.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Are there any?
You need to reread the total. You said thousands in the beginning instead of millions.
Here, I'll do it. Well, the total is $707,177,324.
All right.
Sorry, I don't deal
little
with
bit
numbers that big.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Are there any questions or additions for staff? All right. At this time, we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the millage rate tonight? Seeing none, I will close public participation and I'll open the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval for the millage rate at 6.25 mils.
We have a motion for the millage to be set at 6.25. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Opposed. Motion carries 4-1. Now moving to Resolution 2020-R-47. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution 2020-R-47 by title only for second and final reading. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the final budget for the City of Holly Hill for the fiscal year 2020-2021 and providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Is there any questions for staff? At this time, we'll open the floor to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the commission on the budget? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve budget for 2020 and to 2021 fiscal year. Sorry about that.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed? We kind of talked about both of these at length over the last few months, so we'll go ahead and take the vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now moving to our first presentation of the night, and this is honoring Michael Coomans, his retirement from the Holly Hill Police Department. I don't see him here tonight, but I'm going to read this into the record, and Chief, I ask that you'll go ahead and give it to him. This is a resolution of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, recognizing Michael Coomans for his 22 years of service to the City of Holly Hill and its citizens. Whereas Michael Coomans began his career with the City of Holly Hill on September 10th, 1998, as a part-time police officer in the Holly Hill Police Department. And whereas Michael Coomans was promoted to a full-time police officer position on October 25th, 1999, and served in the Patrol Division answering calls for service and enforcing traffic laws. And whereas Michael Coomans was not just an average police officer, he sought out additional training related to traffic enforcement and traffic crash investigations to increase his knowledge and provide the citizens of Holly Hill with the highest level of professional traffic enforcement. And whereas Michael Coomans obtained certifications for basic traffic homicide investigations, advanced traffic homicide investigations, and traffic crash reconstruction. With an increased knowledge of traffic crash investigations, Mike served as our agency's senior traffic crash investigator for over 10 years. Through his relentless efforts and to reconstruct traffic crashes and thoroughly investigate crashing scenes, Mike was able to solve many hit-and-run crashes that brought closure to grieving family members. And whereas Michael Coomans was a certified field training officer, he helped train many of our newest officers on traffic enforcement operations and traffic crash investigations. And whereas Michael Coomans was recognized as a master police officer in October 2019 for his advanced level of training and years of experience within the police department. And whereas Michael Coomans retired from the Holly Hill Police Department on August 30th, 2020, as a dedicated public servant with 22 years of service to the citizens of Holly Hill. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, hereby acknowledges its grateful appreciation to Michael Coomans for his 22 years of outstanding service and dedication to the City of Holly Hill, and wish him well in his retirement and through his future endeavors. So, Chief, I'll have this up here after the meeting. Thank you. All right. Now we will go on to public comments section. This is the audience's opportunity to address anything that is not on our regular agenda tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the commission? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Gary, 342 Burley. Some years back, I recall that there was a balloon put up to send much of the stormwater west. I think Chris Hurst and several of the folks in the county were working on that. I'm wondering if anything has come forth on that.
All right.
Sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Legary. We'll address that. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. We will skip the approval of the minutes and move to our consent agenda, items 1 through 10. And
Mr. Mayor,
yeah, I'm going to pull one, and then
did you want to have Joe respond to that comment?
I was going to respond at the end.
Oh, okay.
Would you like to respond now, Mr. Forte?
I'm trying to understand if he said the word balloon.
I think he was talking about the idea specifically of taking rainwater, flood water, and pumping it west.
I'm not aware of any engineering study or plans to do that, so I'll look, but I'm not familiar with any plans to do such thing.
I just kind of vaguely recall that being very cost prohibitive,
Right.
is what I recall.
I know that there was a study done about where our flooding on Riverside Drive was done, and it came back at millions and millions of dollars to only affect a couple inches of flood water. Is that correct?
We can talk about this now or at the end, because it's going to deviate from what the question was. I'm not aware of any study or report that's been done to transmit any of the stormwater west. There's nowhere to go, and you can't, what's the word I'm looking for?
Flood.
No.
Discharge.
No, it's not even discharge. When you put it back into the ground.
Recharge.
You can't recharge salt water into the marsh area, so that can't work. You can discharge our reclaim into the marsh area, and that could percolate down into the aquifer, and that could be regenerated as potential potable water. But you can't do that with salt intrusion water. So I don't know anything about that project. I haven't seen anything in the 7 years that I'm back here, 6 years. Now, with regard to the recent flooding on Riverside Drive as a result of the nor'easter and the northeast winds that came in that pushed the tides in, and of course I've got some complaints, and I met with two folks at Marina Grande, both Don and Ray, and I brought them up and I showed them our stormwater outfall system, the stormwater piping in that whole area, and what the challenges and the complications are there. And the biggest thing I told them is we didn't have a drop of rain yesterday, and the streets flooded. They flooded for one reason and one reason only. The river overflowed its banks.
Right.
I cannot stop that. They overflowed the banks, they came across the shore, and they came across Riverside Drive, and they backed up into our stormwater system. I can't stop that.
Right.
We can put duckbills on, but that's only going to slow it down in the pipes when it overflows the banks. And I showed them the elevation of Riverside Drive is at or below the elevation of the river. So when a river comes across the banks of, I call it the berm of the banks of Riverside, it ends up in that pool, that basin that is set, from what I looked up, and I'm not an engineer, I'm not going to swear to this, but I understand that the river is actually at an elevation 5, and Riverside Drive is at an elevation 3.7 to 2.7. So when it crosses that river, when it crosses the property, we create a pool. And the only way it's going to get out of there is when the tide goes out and it gets back into the storm drains to go out. So
Right.
this isn't a rain or drainage event. This is the river backing up and overflowing into our city.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. And Mr. Legary, if you have more information too that you could get with Mr. Forte during one of the work days outside of the meeting. All right. Thank you, sir. Now moving on to our consent agenda, I'm going to pull item number 9. Does anyone else want to pull any item on the consent agenda? Yes.
Number 8.
Number 8. Anything else? All right. With that, the action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda, items 1 through 10, with exception of 8 and 9. Unless the city commissioner removes an item on the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda tonight? Not 9. Yeah. Any other ones? All right. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and I will entertain a motion for approval of items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No discussion is needed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now, item 8, towing service contract, RFP 2020-PD-01, towing services. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, it's a bigger issue than just item 8. Our current vendor, Aero Record, did not apply. And I understand it's, that we advertise everything legally and properly, but I'd like to, some kind of internet service that vendors apply to, and they didn't subscribe it, or they didn't see it, so they didn't apply. And I think it's a shame that's a local business that's not going to get the job. There's nothing we can do about it. But I'd like to see that if we can set a policy and force that going forward, any service contracts that the city might have, that the incumbent contractor get a personal contact. If we have a long working relationship with someone and they're doing a great job, and they missed the email that day or something. I'd just like to see if we could prevent this from happening in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Vice Mayor. I think that's a good suggestion. And with this specific contract before us tonight, I believe that we should move forward with this contract as is, but I believe moving forward, you're right.
And I know it doesn't pertain to this particular contract, but just a policy going forward. And I didn't know, I seem to recall in the past that we had several authorized vendors, that you had like a round robin. Was that, am I incorrect on that,
Yeah,
Joe?
That's a very, very long time ago where we used to have a rotation list. And the rotation list, it was just that. You'd go down the rotation for the next record to provide services to the city at either the city or the police department's request. That was changed out for now we have contracts with a tow company that provides a royalty back to the city.
Oh, we didn't receive a royalty when it was a round robin?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And with that, I will ask for a motion for approval from you.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now, item 9, authorizing the city manager to dispose of the attached list of surplus equipment. I asked for this to be removed. I spoke with Mr. Forte about it. Just in the packet, there was an error. Apparently, there was surplus funds that were going to be in that and that were pulled, but the total, and so all of the items were 000 value, and then the value at the very end for the total stayed the same when the item was pulled off. And so we thought that we should have that corrected to make sure that the record reflects that that will be back to 0. And then another suggestion I had for the future in our packet, because I had to inquire a couple times to Mr. Forte on what was the reason why we were surplusing these items. And just looking through the items, you don't know if it's a crash car, why its value is 0. You know, it's a 10 or 15-year-old car, but sometimes you would think sometimes they have value. But in this case, none of them did have value. But I would just like some type of explanation in that. And I don't think we need a motion to do that, but just more direction, unless anyone objects to that.
No,
Mr. Forte, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I had already spoke with Steve Youngst, who generates this, and Antoine Curry, the department director, about in the future, we're going to create a column on that surplus list with a brief description of why it's being surplused. Sometimes it's damaged, sometimes it's age, sometimes it just doesn't work. It's very rare that we actually surplus something that's got a great value to it. So we will take care of that. We'll reflect the change that we have the total on there that's incorrect, and that was an oversight when we removed the item. And the other thing, Mayor, I want to clarify for you that I also spoke to Steve about is when it says that we're going to dispose of the surplus equipment as appropriate.
Right.
We have policies on how to dispose of surplus equipment. It usually goes to auction. I don't want anybody to think that it's at anyone's discretion how we get rid of it. It's all done appropriately and properly through our policy, and we'll state that in the future ones as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That answers all my questions. Are there any further questions for staff? All right. With that, we'll open this up to the public. Yes, Ms. Heidi, if you'd like to come up and speak.
Hi there, I am Heidi Heller of 460 Ridgewood Avenue in the future excellent city of Holly Hill. I'd like to say hello to everybody tonight and hello to our listeners around the block. Regarding this, I am glad that we take concern and detail about getting the equipment, getting the right equipment for the right job. My concern is when we get rid of it, hopefully it's the same, that it's going because it needs to go and it's not going to go to somebody's toy box. However, it's going to auction, Mannheim Auction, who takes care of it. Mannheim is not a public auction. The public has paid for this. They've maintained it for years, 2006, 2003. Is there a policy why, even though there is a policy for auction, why can't it go to public auction? Mannheim is a dealer-only auction. So since the public has paid for it, I would hopefully that the public can have access to a public auction. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And Mr. Forte, could you address that, please?
Sure. This happens to be a list of mostly police cars and a couple of pickup trucks that are either old or damaged, have been in wrecks, so they really hold no value. A long time ago, we used to auction these items on the front steps of City Hall, giving the local community, I don't know if you remember that, you were a young fella at the time.
I didn't bid on any of those.
No, you didn't.
You didn't have your license yet?
I was only making $10 a week at that
But we
time.
used to bid them right here on the front steps of City Hall,
Still make them.
especially the vehicles. And really what happened is the fleet director at one time, he actually kept bidding on a vehicle because he knew that the value of the vehicle was worth more than what people coming were going to bid for it. So he was bidding more so that the city can get more money, even though he was just going to resell it again. So we get the highest bang for the buck and from Manheim, and it goes quickly. When we do it on the steps of City Hall, anything that doesn't sell ends up going back to the yard, and we have to figure out some other way to do it. We used to use another online auction company, and I forgot the name of that. And these are big vehicles.
Whatever happened to that? Why'd we stop using that? I don't-
For the same reason. A lot of times you'll get people that are bidding on things from out of the area, and they want to know how you're going to get it to them. So we used to bid computer equipment. It was worthless. There were a lot of smaller items that technically fall under our asset inventory list that have little to no value, and we try to sell it to people, and when they see what it is and it's really scrap, it has no value. So we used to do it very, very local on the front steps of City Hall, found that to be more cost ineffective, and we ended up keeping the stuff, and then we'd have to try to get rid of it the next time we had an auction, that we decided the quickest way to do it is to go through Manheim for vehicles, and we do some other stuff through that other online program for other items. Scott gets rid of his computer equipment through an IT service.
Which allows you, the public, to buy those assets on their website, and we get half the profit from that.
And the only time we do something different than those types of auctions is, for example, when we gave away, we'd gotten a new extrication tool. You might know it as the Jaws of Life. We got a new extrication tool that we actually got for free from Firehouse Subs. So our old extrication tool, we actually gave away to another city. So if we have an opportunity where we get something for free and we can help out another local city, we'll go ahead and do that. But we don't do that until the commission gives us the authorization to do so.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes you can spend $1 trying to save a nickel. That's
Right.
kind of what it sounds like maybe happened there. Is there any other further questions for staff? All right. I will entertain a motion for approval as stated with the changes that I spoke about.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You got that, Val? All right, thank you. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now we're moving to our regular agenda, ordinance 2020-0-3031. Mr. Simpson?
2020-0-3031 by title only for first reading. An ordinance amending Section 10-1 definitions and adding Section 10-51 cruelty of Chapter 10 Animals, Article 2 Care and Control of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Holly Hill by prohibiting the tethering of animals, providing exceptions and conditions for the humane tethering of animals, providing for enforcement, providing penalties for violations, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, and setting forth an effective date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. So the nexus of where this really came from, I received a phone call from someone actually in the audience tonight, Mrs. Debbie Dorino, who I will allow to come up in a minute, letting us know about what ordinances she's working on in other communities. And I also want to recognize another very important person here, Mrs. Councilwoman Lois Paritsky here, thank you so much for coming. And she was instrumental in Ponce Inlet to push forward this tethering law there as well. And so I know that at Daytona Beach, I believe tomorrow is voting on their second reading of this ordinance. Deltona has passed it and working on some other cities. I know Port Orange is taking a look at it as well. And so Mr. Forte brought this up actually years ago to us, a similar law at the time, and it just really didn't ever go anywhere. It didn't really get put on the agenda. I thought it was a good ordinance when I read through it, and something that will protect dogs in our city. And really, you know, to have a dog locked up outside in a bad way with no shelter, with no food for 12 hours a day, to me that's animal abuse, and I don't feel that we should allow that here in the city of Holly Hill. And if you're going to have a dog, then you shouldn't be treating that dog that way. So that's kind of why I asked Mr. Forte to put this on the agenda. There is one note that I want to make. This is the first reading. We will have a second reading. And there is one thing that was brought to my attention by Mrs. Dorino, and I know that Ponce Inlet is also going through this change to their ordinance right now, and that's to add the definition of adequate shelter. So I believe what we would do is there's 3 instances of shelter in this ordinance, and we would change it to adequate shelter. And then in the definition section, add the definition of adequate shelter. Joe, do you have that, the definition of adequate shelter?
Yeah, I actually already forwarded it to the clerk so that she could, tomorrow, once this passes, we'll go ahead and make make those changes for the next one. But
And I think we should just add it on the next one. We can pass this as is.
yeah.
And then put that on the next one,
Yeah, it's a
and
definition,
everyone
so it
can
doesn't
review it.
change the title substantially to be concerned about the title of the ordinance.
Okay, perfect. All right, so with that, are there any questions on this? All right, at this time, I'm going to open up public comment, and I'm going to allow Councilwoman Paritsky to come up, and also Mrs. Dorino, if you'd like to say any words on this. I know you've been instrumental in pushing this forward, so if you'd both like to come up and share the microphone. And just state your name and your address for the record.
Debbie Dorino, 6795 Calistoga Circle, Port Orange.
Lois Paritsky, 4757 Atlantic Avenue, Ponce Inlet.
Thank you so much. So, Debbie, I know that you wanted to say a few words tonight about the specific ordinance, and we want to thank you for all the work that you've done. If some people don't know, she was instrumental in getting Ponce's law passed and through the legislature, and which is such, as we all know, such a big deal to get a law passed the first time through. And this session, she's also going to be working with more state legislatures to get the adequate shelter definition put into state law as well. So I applaud your efforts, and I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add tonight.
I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for even listening to this and putting it on your agenda. I really appreciate that, and you've made it really easy for me to not have to argue with you. When it comes to animal abuse, that's when I get really serious. You probably don't know the amount of calls and emails and text messages that I get personally every day, all day, in every city in the county here, in other counties in the state, in other states. Ponce is like, oh, okay, and they call me. So I even had somebody from the local shelter refer a person calling to report abuse to call me. They should be calling animal control or the police if it's after hours, but they don't. They call me. So that's why I'm presenting that to you as well. As far as the anti-tethering ordinance, Lois had done that, I think, what was it, 2018, and I thought it was perfect. It was like excellent. There was nothing I need to do to change it. It was perfect. So I thought, well, you know, I'm also on the Animal Control Advisory Board for the county, and we started working on ordinances and stuff to change, because it's been years since a lot of these things have changed. And I thought, well, let me go ahead and start with the cities, and get it in your ordinances, because they're old too, and they haven't been updated in a while. In fact, Port Orange, it's been 29 years since they mentioned what a shelter was. So So I'm happy that you put that in. It'll help animal control and law enforcement to enforce things that are out there when you get these cases, because right now, from what I'm told, there's not a lot of laws to help them enforce what they see out there. As far as adequate shelter, I am doing an amendment to the Florida statute 828.13. It refers to everything but what adequate shelter is. I'm doing an amendment also to Florida statute 828.12, so we can distinguish the difference between intentional killing and unintentional killing in the misdemeanor statute. It also refers to adequate shelter in the misdemeanor shelter, in reference to the adequate shelter in the misdemeanor statute, but it doesn't tell you what it is. So I'm doing an amendment to add it into the statutes. I'm giving it to you now so that you can add it in with the anti-tethering, because again, when it refers to shelter, it doesn't tell you what a shelter is. So let's put them together and do that. And then 2021, fingers crossed, it will pass through for statewide. So that's what
Great.
I'm doing.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Drino. I really appreciate it. Lois, would you like to say anything?
I really just want to thank all of you for considering this. It is a very important ordinance, and when we can clearly set forth for our animal control officers or law enforcement or police officers, if it's clear for them, then it's a good resource, a good tool for them, because what we're looking for is compliance with our residents. Nobody is looking for a citation or a criminal violation if we can avoid it. What we're trying to do is protect the animals, educate the people, and just give another tool, if necessary, to our law enforcement. So I just want to thank you all for considering it. And we are working on the adequate shelter definition, because we're doing, I was permitted to do a complete revamp of our Article 10, and that I'm going to be presenting with the animal welfare laws in November to, so it's redoing all of it and adding protections. So thank you again. Thank you for hearing us as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate you both being here. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this ordinance tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
We have a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Johnson and a second by Commissioner Curry. Is there any discussion needed?
No, I'm an animal lover. I'd do anything for animals.
And I would just like to say thank you to both of you for all of your time and effort into making the animals in our community safer.
Vice Mayor? All right.
Ditto, yeah.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, we have no more public hearings tonight, so we'll move to communications. Mr. Forte?
Yeah, I'm going to have Val put something up on the overhead for you to take a look at real quick. While she's doing that, I'm just going to let you know I'll be out of the office Thursday, Friday, and Monday coming up. Jim Bland will be your contact point in my absence. If you have anything, you can contact Chief Bland. What we're going to be putting up on the screen is there's the Livability Greater Daytona Volusia County portion of this magazine that goes out, and we've bought advertisements in this magazine in the past, and this will also be a digital version. So I took the approach this time, we got a half page, and I took the approach this time of trying to promote an overall theme that I'm trying to portray for the city of Holly Hill, dealing with the places where you can live, what's going on in the community, employment,
1065.
employment opportunities, recreation, outdoor lifestyles. So they sent me a draft of what it's going to look like, and I wanted to get your opinions on it.
Trying to remember my password.
To your email account?
Just saved in the computer.
Can't help you.
I can run to the office and
Okay,
get it.
sure. So far, the only thing I see wrong with it, it has the wrong city logo on there, which I'm going to update. But I wanted to get this up to you. I think it's pretty nice. It's kind of, I think it's pretty impressive, and I think it reflects what we're trying to portray for the city of Holly Hill and trying to attract businesses and other people to move into this area. While we're waiting for that, I don't have anything else on my list of items to bring up.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Forte. Mr. Simpson?
No comments.
Surprise, surprise. All right. First off, welcome back, Commissioner Johnson. We missed you, and we're glad that you're doing well. So easy meeting for you to come back to, too. So welcome back there. And I wanted to thank our Vice Mayor, John Penny, for stepping in for me today for a meeting with Synergy Billing. And I appreciate you doing that and stepping up to represent the commission at that meeting and to hear firsthand. I think that it's important, as much as we trust Mr. Forte and know that he does a good job in those meetings, for a representative on the commission to be able to sit in and hear firsthand what's going on, and whether it's you, I, or another commissioner up here, that way we have a little bit of color to come back to the commission with when it comes time to making tough decisions, or easy decisions even with what we have to do with that project. So I appreciate that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was I asked the American Legion several months ago when we were talking about the Veterans Memorial out front out here to track down through their resources any person that could have possibly died in service to our country in the military that was from Holly Hill, a resident from Holly Hill. And I just received that list back, and there was 10 people on the list. And I know of one other recently, back about 10 years ago, who had died in Iraq, and he wasn't on that list. And so we're going to reach out to other sources as well, because we want to make sure before we put those names in stone that we have everybody and that we're not missing anybody. We, of course, want to welcome their families to that ceremony whenever we get that built, and make sure we honor them in the right way. And so I had talked to Mr. Forte about an idea when we move forward with how we're going to engineer it, and when we get a little bit more solidified in the coming months. It was an idea to go to the News Journal and to make a story about it, that Holly Hill is honoring its veterans who have served and gave all, and putting their name in stone, and they're searching for making sure that we have all of these people. And I know it'll be a news story that Holly Hill is searching for them. So if you have a family member, a neighbor, or if you know someone who passed away in war and defending our country, and they were a resident of Holly Hill, to help us out. So that way we can get the whole community involved, reach out to every resource. We're going to reach out to Congressman Waltz's office as well and see if they have any other resources, just to cross every T and dot every I. So I didn't know if anybody, we don't need a motion to do that or anything, but just wanted to share that plan unless anyone objects to it or has a better idea. All right. Sounds good. All right. Val, do you have that now?
Yeah,
All
just
right.
scroll down to the photo, to the picture on there, Val. So this is what the magazine would look like, and I think it's pretty impressive. It's got the Marina Grand condominiums on there, the Pictona pickleball complex. It shows employment opportunities through the Fountainhead with Synergy Billing, recreation for children through flight gymnastics, and of course our recently completed our recently completed boat launch that we have listed as outdoor lifestyle. So I know that the logo at the top needs to be changed out, and then from my own lack of understanding the English language, Sunrise Park, it says Sunrise Park, South Holly Hill, and I think it should be Sunrise Park South, Holly Hill. Does anybody want to tell me the right way that should be?
Yeah, Sunrise Park
We're
South.
not South Holly Hill.
But Joe, you could just take out the south part. I mean, it's Sunrise Park.
Yeah, we don't need
It's not like it's.
That's fine too.
And also too, though, I'm okay with keeping our seal because that still is our seal.
It is our seal.
So I'm fine with keeping the seal. It may come up even better than our logo because our logo doesn't really have anything behind it to make it stand out. But
Right.
I'm good with it either way. But
Okay.
That pops out pretty good.
yeah, I think it pops out really well, Joe.
Any more comments?
Say it again?
Yeah. Want any more comments? I think the writing should stay inside the box, and I think outdoor living should be in the middle, so you have 2 on the top, 1 in the middle, and 2 on the bottom. That's just my ADHD.
How do you sleep at night?
I see patterns, I'm sorry.
So, I'm sure that they could figure out how to do that, but if you notice, the picture on the bottom is actually, the 4 pictures on top are actually in the sky of the picture on the bottom.
I don't really care.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna fight you.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be up at 3 o'clock. Yeah, we can move the,
Mr. Daniel says the font is hard to read. How big is this ad going to be? Is it a half page?
probably what you see on this page.
Okay.
I got it here.
Okay, so it's about a half page. Wow.
It's a half page, it's called a half-page ad.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Forte.
All right. And the only other thing I wanted to just say is with regard to the way we went about the tow contracts, I've already met with staff and gave them further instruction, and when we get the time, we're going to talk to all of our department heads on the purchasing policy and do a refresher on that. But typically, the way that should go is our policy says that we're going to advertise all of our RFPs through the vendor link system. And then if a department head wants that to go out beyond that to assure that certain vendors do get notified, that they're to notify the purchasing agent, who is our finance director, to send that RFP out specifically to, and they could hand them a list of here's 6 vendors that I want to make sure get a copy of this. That's perfectly fine to do that. We'll certainly make sure that all of our current vendors know about it, although in this case we have a great vendor doing the job. Sometimes you get a vendor you don't want to repeat, but we'll make sure all the vendors get it. And hopefully we won't have a reoccurrence of that process. We met the letter of the law. We may not have met the full intent of the law. So we'll work on that for the next time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Forte. All right. And with that, we will start with Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, sir. I really don't have much of anything. I'm glad that over all of our discussion the last 2 or 3 months about the budget and the millage rate that we can finally come to a consensus on getting that done, and we don't have so much animosity about it like a lot of other commissions do. We've done a very good job at moving forward, and I would like to continue to do that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Curry. Commissioner Daniel? Nice tie tonight, by the way.
Thanks, sir.
I can tell your wife picked it out. It's a good thing.
No, I was just wanted to mention that we kind of felt good last week when I had, believe it or not, my health inspector showed up, and she hadn't been around the area. They swap every so often. It'd been like 20 years, and she was really impressed with the look of City Holly Hill because she doesn't live around here. She hadn't been in this turf, and and it just made me feel pretty good that we'd come that far to somebody. You don't see it on a day-to-day, but when you see it 2 decades later, and I was just like kind of happy to see that. And other than that, if we close comments, we might be out of here by 8 o'clock.
Yeah. All right. Commissioner Johnson?
I don't have a lot, but I just appreciate all the concerns everyone had when I got pretty ill. And a lot of people was praying for me, and I came out of the hospital without any real problems, but it was a rough go. But no matter how much you have to do, how busy you are at work or whatever, there's 2 things that will always bring you to a screeching halt. One of them is health bad, and the other is weather. If you got bad enough weather, you got bad enough health, you're done. It doesn't matter how much you absolutely have to do, you're going to stop doing it all.
We had both last week.
And I hear everywhere I go that Holly Hill seems to be doing good. They like the Fountainhead projects. They like the pickleball thing and the parks and the boat ramps and so many of the things you hear good about it, and that's really a good thing. And we just need to keep it going like that, because now there's a positivity in Holly Hill. I know there's a lot of events we'd normally have we won't be able to have, like we'll probably be curtailing at Halloween be curtailing our Christmas parade probably and everything else coming forth, but we're still moving ahead and still doing good. So just be thankful for what you have and stay healthy. And if you got a lung problem or you know somebody that smokes, or please talk them into stopping, because it's a bad thing to have a problem with your lungs. I got just an infection in the lungs. It took a bit for the hospital to clear it up with antibiotics and things, and what a difference. I used to get out of breath just going up the stairs at Dallas's house. And after I come out of there, I can go up and down without a problem whatsoever. I can ride the bicycle around with him where I used to get out of breath doing it, and no problem whatsoever, anything. So it was a problem, and it was coming on for a while, and it cleared up. So I had a learning curve, believe me. That's all I have. I appreciate everybody and everything you do, and I appreciate the folks from Ponce Inlet coming out. And I just want to let you know, my brother was the very first police chief in Ponce Inlet. He was it. That was the first one.
Great.
I always have a soft place for Ponce Inlet.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Vice Mayor Penny?
Just a couple things, something that comes up and sneaks up on us every year, but it happens every year. Citizen of the Year coming up, start thinking about it. And then I don't know how we left the Christmas parade. I think we said we were going to cautiously continue to plan, but I don't know. I've had several inquiries from people that were entrants in the parade in the past years and are looking forward to it. And I said, well, I don't really have any answers as to what's going to happen. We're kind of sitting and waiting. So I don't know when is it too late to make that decision? And
Yeah.
are we too early? Are we too late? I don't know what we should do.
I think we're still in a good time position, and I think that looking at the numbers still continuing to come back and seeing that the COVID numbers are continuing to decline in Florida and Volusia. And if we don't see, Mr. Forte and I were speaking about this, if we don't see a big spike stemming from Labor Day weekend and from kids going back to school and people really going back out, the bars are reopened, then I think that it's safe to assume that we're past the worst of it. And scientifically, what is the reason for that? I'm not sure. But, we gotta, at some point, what point do we start opening back up and allowing things? And I think that Christmas for us could be the first big thing that we say, wow, we're finally doing. So for me, I don't see a reason to say no to it yet. In fact, I'm seeing indicators that things are improving and that hopefully we can continue down that path. And I think that we still do have some time. So I would like to see further on, every 2 weeks will get better and better.
I agree. And last time we spoke about it, I was looking at it from my insurance hat, risk manager, liability potential. And the more I think about it, the more I contemplate it, the numbers are down. I think it boils down to personal responsibility. If you don't feel comfortable coming, you don't come. If you do come, we strongly encourage you to mask up and social distance when possible. So I'm feeling more comfortable about having the event. But like you said, if something changes drastically, we have to be prepared to rip that Band-Aid off.
What would be our deadline to decide? And if people are inquiring.
Friday before Saturday.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, Mr. Forte?
The commission took a position to go ahead and okay the car show, and we're also doing the Pictona pickleball tournament, and we're doing one other thing, the bike week permits, and you took a position to go ahead and move forward with those without restriction. So now you're talking about moving forward with the lighting ceremony and the Christmas parade, but you're not saying go forward. You're
That's 2
saying
months
we
later.
reserve the right to cancel, and our vendors are going, I'm not going to commit until the commission commits. So I would rather you take a position to move forward with the lighting ceremony and the parade, one or the other or both, so that we can get the message out there that the commission is in support of and the parade is scheduled to go on. Now, if something bad happens, a tremendous spike, we'll cancel it. But I think we have to take the position of we're going to put this parade on and we want people to protectively participate both as an entrant and as a spectator.
That's right, and that is my position, is to say that we are doing this, but if we see a spike and something happens, then, can we host a city event, and then at that point, it would be the will of this commission to be able to cancel it or not. I say we move forward with it right now, and I know I made my arguments clear before that I think now more than ever people need Christmas. People need this, and we have one of the longest running Christmas parades in Volusia County, and the vice mayor hit on it once again. Personal responsibility needs to start really taking place. Government can't make all health decisions for people. We shouldn't be making health decisions for people, and this is once again a big boon to not only the spirit of people, but to our businesses who are able to get their word out there for buying a few bags of candy and waving to kids and showing off what their service is. So I'm fully in support of it. I know you're biting at the bit.
No, I just wanted to point out, Joe, that we had clarified that we were in favor of the Oktoberfest and those other two events. They weren't city-sponsored. We kept kind of clarifying when we were city-sponsored, they weren't.
They are city-sponsored.
Well, they were
City
personal-
hosted, better word, meaning fully from the city, not
Like the
with an
permits are
outside
not, that we're
partner
issuing
coming
them,
in.
but we're not hosting them.
We
That was the difference.
Right, we issue the permits, whether they're coming or not, is whether or not we issue them a permit. So that's one thing. The car show is a city-sponsored car show. It's on our property.
Well, but isn't Tony pulling permits?
He pulls permits, but it's on our property. So you're getting back to the liability issue, and frankly,
They're going to sue us no matter
I
what.
don't know if it was the liability issue that we were talking about so much as we were going to be held,
well, that's liability.
I'm not thinking liability, I'm thinking more social response, like we made,
Well, that's going to be up
I
to
mean,
the
I'm
individual.
in favor, the way it's looking, I'm in favor of it. I just thought that was the kind of the difference in our thinking last meeting was that
But we kind of set all that aside as we went in a complete.
full
circle.
circle,
Yeah.
right. All right. Yeah.
Commissioner Curry?
The way I remember it is pretty close to what you remember. I believe we had discussions about city-sponsored, city-supported, what have you. I am by no means prepared to make a positive decision at this point for having the parade. I'm willing to wait another couple weeks, see what the numbers come back at, maybe have discussion then, but I think it's just too soon to pull the plug or too soon to say, yes, we're going to proceed forward.
See, we're at-
We need to have more data coming in.
We're at a point now where we're asking for commitment for people to participate in this parade. And when they want to know if the city's in support of the parade, and I say, well, my commission hasn't quite given us the go-ahead, they're not participating.
I think if we make a decision by October, Joe, whether it be the first or second meeting,
We are
that
already-
gives people plenty of time
We are already behind.
to decide. I know that for years and years and years, Miss Manning has worked the parade almost all year through. But if we're going to have the parade, people that want to attend our parade, if we let them know in October, it's plenty of time for you to throw some decorations on your vehicle and
I still
apply to
think
join the parade. I'm not comfortable
you
making a
have the
decision like that
ability
right now.
to cancel the parade at any time. You can cancel the parade the day before as if it was a rain event. So, your ability to cancel for cause, to say, well, we've had a spike, regardless of what the reason the spike is. If there's a spike in COVID-positive cases and you decide you're not comfortable moving forward with the parade, if we get a spike after the car show, if Daytona gets a spike after Bike Week, Oktoberfest, whatever it may be, you have the right to turn around and say, we're canceling this parade. But I think what we need to do is let the people who are going to participate know that we're going to have a parade. And right now, I can't tell them that. I cannot tell them that we're having a parade because I have commissioners up here saying, I don't know if we're going to have it.
And I'm not comfortable with telling you that my vote would be yes right now. I'm in the middle of the road right now till I get more data, Joe. I can't say,
Is there
yes,
a
I
vote?
support it. Excuse me?
Is there a vote?
Well, I don't
All
think
right,
there's a
all
vote
right, now
on
there's
the
not a
agenda.
motion.
That
Not
sounds
a
like we're
motion.
putting a lot of pressure on the staff.
The staff is in a position where we either have to go in a direction or not.
Well, then maybe we can hear it next meeting, and that way we can have the opportunity to gather more data for ourselves. I haven't gathered
you
data to make a decision, Joe.
Why don't you put your decision-making at a threshold? So for example, our numbers in the state of Florida have been between 25 and, let's say 25 and 3,500 positive viruses, positive cases. Why don't you put something in place that says if we peak 10,000, if we peak 6,000, if we peak 5,000, that's an automatic cancel. So that you don't have to make this decision, that we have something in play that says if we peak at this number, we're going to cancel the parade.
I think there needs to be a decision process in that, but if you would.
I
give
would
the
like
floor
to hear it next meeting, so I
I
can make
think
a
2 weeks for
decision.
us is
All right.
like 1 day away.
Thank you,
I think 2
Commissioner.
weeks for
Commissioner
staff.
Daniel,
Sorry.
excuse me, Vice Mayor Penny has been waiting for the floor.
Mr. Forte stole some of my points, but I think it's prudent to move forward and plan for it, because if a tornado comes through the night before, we're going to cancel it. If a thunderstorm comes the day before, we're going to cancel it. The data that we're looking for is data from the past and data from the present. The data that we don't know is the data in the future. And so I'm completely come 180 degrees over the last 2 weeks. We sat here and talked about this, and I started against all car shows, and we talked, and I came all the way around. I'm in support of it. I'm in support of moving forward with the Christmas parade and the tree lighting as of today. And if data comes to us at a future date, we can always cancel it.
Well, I guess if we take a vote, I'll have to be the naysayer of the group, because I'm not prepared to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
sure.
my next question is, would you entertain a motion?
I will, but first, let's hear from the other two commissioners.
No, I didn't know. I was going to say the same thing. We're kind of,
Okay.
for us, it seems like 2 weeks seems like a day, because it's our next meeting. For these guys, 2 weeks is kind of eternity, because they do this day in and day out. I feel there's a lot of pressure on the staff that we're maybe not being fair about. Like you say, I mean, if we give them the go, like we seem to be doing, we can always pull the plug. So we've always wanted to be helpful, because they do a lot for us. It's not like we're putting it in stone. So, if it comes to a vote, I'll probably vote. I mean, I'm going to vote in favor of it too.
You had a rebuttal.
I forgot one of my notes I made down here. We talk about waiting 2 weeks to schedule. Well, this may be a perfect opportunity to get some of the people we've never been able to get before, because other communities canceled their parades months ago. You might be able to get Bethune-Cookman College in our parade this year. Wouldn't that be fantastic? We've tried every year. They're always somewhere else. They're at a bowl game, or they're at somewhere.
Yeah.
Those aren't happening now. So it may be an opportunity to put the word out on the street, and we may get some first-class participants in our parade, hoping that it happens.
That's a great point. Commissioner Johnson?
I feel like we should go make a commitment, go forward with it, make a good business decision on the main thing, and then have an option to cancel if necessary. It's as simple as that. I mean, we commit, we always have the option to cancel.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I will entertain a motion if you wanted to move
He's chewing.
as you're
Put
chewing
a candy
candy.
bar in my mouth. I'll make a motion that we give staff direction to continue planning the Christmas parade and tree lighting ceremony as usual.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Now we're going to open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the Christmas parade and our discussion? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. Now, discussion, any further?
I've already said my
right.
point.
And I think, Commissioner, too, I think that, look, we all want to continue to monitor this, and if we do see that,
I was
we
just
will be
asking for
reactive.
2 weeks for me to be able to research and gather information. I can't vote on something this important for my community on the fly. I'm
And-
sorry.
And I respect
It's not
that.
the way I'm.
We all
built.
do, yeah.
And I respect that. So with that, we will take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, Joe, there's your direction. I think actually, Vice Mayor, you had the floor.
That's it. It's 8 o'clock. I had to shut up.
Oh, that's true. I got to get home too. Is there any further business before us? With that, we are adjourned.